Well, welcome back to our series of videos on the heart. I hope that after that last video about the cardiac cycle that you haven't lost heart. Then let's keep going, and thankfully this last video for the week is going to be a bit more straightforward, a bit lighter. We're just going to answer the question, what are the main blood vessels in the circulatory system? Now you see the circulatory system connects the heart to many other organs, right? It connects it to the lungs, the head and the arms, the liver, stomach and intestines, kidney, and the lower body and legs. All these organs are all part of the network, all connected up by the circulatory system. All these organs can receive blood from the heart, and all these organs can send blood back to the heart. So substances can be transported around the body quite efficiently through the circulatory system. Now, looking at this diagram, I want you to use the helping words, or you can take a look at your textbook pages to answer what are the names of each of these blood vessels, of each one of these blood vessels that brings blood from the heart to the organ or from the organ back to the heart. So take a pause and try to answer this by yourself, right, before moving on with the video. Okay, so let's go. Let's start from the top. Now we know that this is the pulmonary artery, right? It brings blood from the heart, deoxygenated blood, to the lungs, so the blood can pick up oxygen, and then from the lungs back to the heart. That's our pulmonary vein, right? We've already learned that. Now this blood vessel that brings back deoxygenated blood from the head and the arms, the upper part of the body, the superior vena cava, right? And then there's also a blood vessel that brings oxygenated blood up to the head and arms, right? So we'll just call it the artery that goes to the head and to the arms. This blood vessel here that goes back to the heart with deoxygenated blood is the vena cava, right? And then this blood vessel here that goes from the heart to the rest of the body is called the aorta. We already know that. Now there's a blood vessel that brings deoxygenated blood from the lower half of the body, so that's the inferior vena cava, so all the lower parts of the body. The deoxygenated blood will go through this back to the heart. And then there's a blood vessel that brings oxygenated blood all to the lower part of the body, called the dorsal aorta. Remember in your diagram just now, okay, I'm going to draw the heart. You see the aorta always forming this arch, right? So it is this part that goes down to the lower part of the body that's called the dorsal aorta. Okay, not very important. If you can just remember aorta, that's good enough. There's this blood vessel here that brings blood back from the liver to the heart. That's the hepatic vein, right? We've learned that in the chapter on digestion. This blood vessel here brings oxygenated blood to the liver, the hepatic artery. You've heard of that before too. This special vein that connects the intestines to the liver, you should remember, the hepatic portal vein. Right, and then something new here, there's a blood vessel that brings blood from the kidneys to the heart, right? So back to the heart, so this is the renal vein. Okay, renal means kidney, to do with the kidney, so renal vein. And then this blood vessel here bringing oxygenated blood to the kidneys, called the renal artery. Alright, so we've labeled everything. That's great. So how is this helpful, and how might it come out in the exams? Well, the first thing that it helps us to do is that it helps us to describe how blood flows from any point to another point. So for example, I might ask you, how does urea, which is formed in the liver, reach the kidneys, right? The kidneys where the urea is removed from the body. So you would have to answer something like this, that the urea in the liver is transported by the hepatic vein back to the heart. Okay, hepatic vein to the vena cava back into the heart. From the heart, it doesn't automatically go to the kidneys, right? So it needs to be transported to the lungs first, through the pulmonary artery, then to the pulmonary vein back to the heart, then out through the aorta, and then through the renal artery to the kidneys. Okay, or I might ask you, how is glucose in the small intestine get to the cells of the lungs, right? Maybe the lungs need glucose as well, right? So then you have to answer, oh, from the intestine, it goes through the hepatic portal vein to the liver, then the hepatic vein and the vena cava back to the heart, and then through the pulmonary artery reaching the cells of the lungs. So that's how this map helps you to answer that sort of question. Now, the second way this is useful is that it helps you to compare the blood vessels across the circulatory system. So a common question I've seen is asking you, for example, where is the glucose concentration the highest, which you would say is hopefully remember that's in the hepatic portal vein. Or they might ask you, where is the concentration of urea the lowest, right? Which it would be after the kidneys, so in the renal vein. Or they might ask you to compare the concentration of urea in the renal artery with the renal vein. So something like that. Okay, you need to be aware of where everything is to answer that sort of question. Alright, that's all for this video. Thanks for persevering. Okay, I'll see you back in class and we can discuss more there. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post it in the group or just let me know in person. Alright.